I told you this season was going to be crazy. Weeks 1 and 2 delivered. I don't want to spoil anything, but let me just tell you, 3 and 4 take it up a notch. Here is our map of games. We got P4 action. We got user versus user action. We've got so much more that I can't wait to get into, but we're going to start this one in Miami. The Ohio Bobcats trying to upset number 11 Miami Hurricanes, and they would get on the board early and often, already up 21-0. That's Tracy's second touchdown of the game. This is the first half, by the way. Another score, 42-28. Your final defense a little lax there in the second half, but it doesn't matter when you score 35 in the first half. Ole Miss was hosting Coastal Carolina, and they took some BTA. This was ugly after this touchdown right here. Great throw, great catch. Humphreys has been a diamond in the rough for this Coastal program, but it's now 24-10, still in the first half. And this defense, we know how bad it is. It is Swiss cheese. Another Rebels touchdown. They would score 61, taking Coach Goon's squad to Pound Town. Middle Tennessee State was hosting Maryland in a little bit of an interesting matchup, and they would get on the board first. Jaden Credle with a touchdown right there. But this Terps offense led by Malik Washington was on fire early on, tying this thing up at 7. We're halfway through the second quarter now. Middle Tennessee State drives down the field, and Cameron Lacey with the nice catch to make it a 14-7 game. 14-10 now, and Maryland in the second half taking their first lead of the game. But on the ensuing kickoff, Jalen Mbakwe, we know he's got some speed. He's got some wiggle too. He's breaking ankles and breaking angles. The Blue Raiders would outscore Maryland 35-7 from this point on to take the 49-24 victory. For Western Kentucky, they were trying to pull off this same sort of upset, hosting the Pitt Panthers, and like Middle Tennessee State, they get on the board first, that patented bubble screen. But Pitt drove down the field and scored again. They got the ball back, and they would find the end zone off the play action, making this a 14-7 ball game. Now 28-7. That is a 28-point scoring run if you're counting at home. Western Kentucky finally breaks it, getting the touchdown right there. And then they get the stop, get the ball right back. It's 4th and goal. This is do or die time, and they do, but it's not enough. Pitt finds the end zone yet again and wins 35-21. Out in Bowling Green, Coach Eric Taylor and the Aggies are trying to get their first win of the season, and they would get on the board quickly, scoring that touchdown right there, but the Falcons would answer with a rushing touchdown of their own. It's now 14-7. We got 30 seconds left in the first half. You need a score right here to kind of keep pace, as this game feels like it could have track meet potential in the second half. Pine, that's a deep drop. You're never going to recommend that. And that is an errant throw that gets picked off. And I'm afraid this one's going back for 6. Just an late throw, and it's going to cost some valuable points. That is a 14-point swing right before the break. You just can't have that. It's now 28-7 late in the third quarter. 4th and goal. Drew Pine will find the end zone, but the Utah State Aggies offense came right back. 36-21 now. And this would be the run that sealed the deal. 44-21. Aggies get their first win of the season. Bowling Green, Coach P. Rizzi still winless on the year. Texas State traveled to Delaware in a battle of 2 0-2 teams, and it was Jake Bridell and the Blue Hen offense that got the scoring started. But they would have to answer a Bobcat score, and it would be Matt Kelsey on the keep outside. He gets to the corner without much resistance. It's 28-21 now. A little bit of a scoring burst there in the middle 8 of the game. And Texas State would find the end zone, tying this thing up at 28. First tie since 7-7. But Delaware's offense is pretty good at responding. Kelsey going to find his receiver in a little hole shot. That is a beautiful throw. 4th and goal now for the Bobcat offense. They're looking to tie this thing up again, but they get dropped at the line of scrimmage, and then they would go right down the field, the Blue Hens would, and that is a wide open field. Kelsey with his second rushing touchdown of the game as the Blue Hens notch their first win of the season. Louisiana hosting Louisiana Tech in a battle of the Boot State, and the Raging Cajuns would extend their lead to 10, but the Bulldogs came right back down the field and found the end zone to make it a 3-point game heading into the break. They would get the ball coming out of halftime, and this would be an ugly showing from the Cajuns defense. They're going to miss a tackle here. They're going to get a broken tackle there, and they're going to get another broken tackle. I'm not sure what the defensive lineman was trying to do there. Great effort, but not great execution. So this is the first Louisiana Tech lead of the game. However, Louisiana would come right back down the field on the bubble screen and score a touchdown. Defense makes a stand. Offense gets the ball back. They call a read option. Lunch Winfield fumbles the football. It's recovered by Louisiana Tech. You can't have that. And with 1:43 left, they're facing 3rd and goal. And they're going to drop back to pass. The running back is wide open in the flats. And they have a lead yet again. A minute left. Can Lunch Winfield be the hero of Louisiana? This is such a big game. And it looked like some miscommunication. I don't know if they ran into each other, but nonetheless, that is a Louisiana loss. They dropped to 1-2 on the year. We've got ourselves a Mountain West rivalry game, and Raleigh Brown is just giving away touchdowns to Fresno State. I bet Coach Aiden Crowley is going to have a talk with him on the sideline. Got no idea what he thought he was going to accomplish with that pitch, but I'm sure Coach Sonnenberger Jr. is happy about that one. Resilience is key, though. San Jose State right back down the field, breaking tackles, finding pay dirt. That is exactly how you want to respond. It's now 34-14. This is the very first play of the second half, and Raleigh Brown's going to make up for that mistake early on. Listen, when you don't get touched and you got some speed, it's pretty easy to score touchdowns. Not sure what Fresno State's been practicing during the week because that was ugly. We now move to the second drive for the Spartans in the second half, and this one would result in the same, another touchdown. 63-35 W for Coach Crowley and his Spartans. The Aztecs were looking to find the win column as well to move to 2-1 on the season, and they would start with some fireworks. What a throw from Malachi Nelson, putting them up 7-0. Now it's 14-0, and Nelson is just cruising for a bruising. The new transfer quarterback had himself quite a day, but it would be this kick return at the start of the second half that would blow this thing wide open as if it wasn't already. Untouched to the end zone. 56-17 is your final. Aztecs get their first conference win of the season. Appalachian State looking to move to 3-0 against a porous ULM team. And I'm not exactly sure that was the right read, but it worked out, and they get 7. Now 14-0, and the Mountaineers are driving yet again, but this one is going to get picked off. Looks like it was bobbled on the catch, and the ULM defender steps right in and picks it off and goes 100 yards the other direction. That is how you turn the game on its head a little bit, except the App State Special Teams knows exactly what it's doing. The very next play, they take it all the way back for 6, and this one just got ugly after this 31-14. Coach Mike Roth and the Mountaineers come out victorious in Sunbelt action. Another Sunbelt team that was in action is the ODU Monarchs, and they found themselves in a 28-14 hole early in the first quarter, but this whoop, I'm just going to keep saying whoop every time he makes a defender miss. That would cut into the lead right there, but this Toledo offense, we know how explosive it can be. It is just so hard for a defense to stay in front of everybody, and if you don't tackle well, which this ODU defense has not this season, you're going to get touchdown runs like that. 37-21 after a rocket safety, and this is still the first half, mind you. Another rushing touchdown. That is now 44 first half points for Toledo. Tell you what, this offense, man, they know how to put up points. But this pass right here is picturesque. Oh my God, the double move, the time in the pocket. Yeah, that was on a dart as well. That was all in the first half. I cannot tell you why it was so high scoring, but the defenses just did not want to show up. And then Carl Gastineau does some dancing to get them up over 50. They would win 58-48. A little late surge by ODU, but was not enough. Buffalo is hosting FCS Northwest to get back over 500. They won week 1, lost week 2. But FCS Northwest got on the board first, and They look to be primed to score yet again, and that's awful defense. We're not tackling, I guess, either, so now we're down 14-0 to an FCS team. Good news, though. They get a touchdown, the Bulls do, and they're going to get another one right here. Check out this throw, splitting the safeties. That is an elite level read to trust that and make the throw in the first place. Good Lord. But it's 28-16 now, and it's the fourth quarter, so it is officially pucker time. We are panicking here in Buffalo. That touchdown right there does good, but it's not enough if the defense can't make a stop, and they don't. They lose 44-29 to FCS Northwest, and Coach Janus' seat is hotter than Arizona asphalt. My gosh, that is an embarrassing performance. UMass is taking on Temple. They find the end zone right there, and then they find it again. The RPO slant, and that is just pure speed and athleticism, outrunning the entire Owls defense to extend the lead even more. Now 24-12, interesting football score. Third quarter, and the Minutemen are going to add to their lead. Little Texas route from the running back, 34-19. Coach Koss and the Minutemen continue to win football games. Jacksonville State taking on Miami of Ohio, and that is a Jaden Davis rushing touchdown to get this thing to 10, and then he would have a throwing touchdown to extend it to 17. But there was still 6 minutes left in this ball game, and the Red Hawks weren't going to quit easily. This touchdown right here cuts this thing back to 10, but you know the Gamecock offense is going to put this thing on ice. The quick out to the wide receiver. He finds the end zone. Nice day at the office for Jacksonville State. Let's take a look back at the scores from week 3. App State pulling off a big decisive victory over UL Monroe. Coastal Carolina getting body bagged by the Rebels. That is just an unfortunate showing from them. Just really embarrassing, to be quite honest with you. Old Dominion loses it was kind of close one to Toledo. The defense is still struggling out there in Norfolk. And then Louisiana with another heartbreaking loss, this time to the Louisiana Tech in-state rival. That one will always come back to haunt you. In the Mountain West, it was San Jose State putting BTA to the Fresno State Bulldogs. Utah State picking up their first win over Bowling Green. That was a massive win for that program, keeping the seat of Eric Taylor a little bit cooler. And then San Diego State putting on an offensive performance of a lifetime, winning 56-17 over Air Force. I'll tell you what, that Aztec team looks really good. As we go to the MAC, Bowling Green, from their perspective, not a great showing against a team that hasn't won a ton of games in recent memory. You need to play a little bit better than that if you want to save your job. Ohio with the upset over Miami in a game that they were up 35-0. Are you serious? This might be the best team in the league. Buffalo losing to an FCS team. I don't think I need to say much more than that. UMass with a very, very convincing win over Temple. Again, it's not flashy with them. They just get the job done. For Toledo, the offense stays on top. They continue to put up points. That defense is a question mark, and it will continue to be so, really outside of that 1 week against Ohio, until they can put some more consistent performances together. Delaware got a big win over Texas State. That one was a little bit closer than you would like, but the final score does have it as a 2-touchdown win. We just talked about Jacksonville State. That's a nice win for them. Middle Tennessee State beating their third Power 4 opponent of the Doc Hudson era. That is just massive. And then Western Kentucky coming up short against Pitt. Let's talk about the Week 3 Players of the Week. Your National Offensive Player of the Week comes from Toledo. Big surprise there. Jonathan Paylor with 12 catches, 193 yards, and a touchdown. He even does some returning as well, so add those stats in there. Guy is on fire right now. There's even talk of him being in the Heisman race. Mason Kelsey is your Offensive Player of the Week. 30 of 39, 366 through the air, 4 touchdowns passing, 10 carries, 50 yards rushing, and 2 rushing touchdowns. That is 6 for the fella right there. Noah Flores is your Defensive Mountain West Player of the Week against Bowling Green. 3 tackles, 2 picks, and a score. And then Tyson Chavez against Air Force. 9 catches, 137 yards, 5 touchdowns. Yes, you read that right, 5 touchdowns. And then in the Sun Belt, London Humphreys with 10 catches, 293 yards. That is 29.3 per catch. And then 2 receiving touchdowns in that loss to Ole Miss. Quite the performance from the transfer wide receiver. We are on to week 4, and we got ourselves a hefty slate of games, 13 of them to be exact. We got user versus user. We got some more Power 4 action, and we've got conference play finally getting into the thick of that. We're going to start this one up in the Mitten State. Toledo taking on Western Michigan, trying to avenge their loss from last year. Western would get on the board first. Toledo responded, but then the Broncos came right back down the field and put some more points on the board. It's now 20-7 after 2 Western Michigan field goals, but Jonathan Paylor is going to find the seam, and he is gone. That dust must not taste very good. This thing is now just 6. And the Rocket offense would do what the Rocket offense does. Just took them a little bit to get going, but once they did, they were on fire. That touchdown right there puts them on top. Now 28-23, Western looking to get the lead back from the Rockets, and they would with the pass right up the middle. No safety help there. Western back in front, and I would really advise kicking away from this guy. Jonathan Paylor does it again, untouched all the way to the end zone, and Toledo would just pour it on in the fourth quarter, winning 50-29 and picking up their first conference victory. Jacksonville State faced their first conference foe in New Mexico State, and they would get on the board here with a beautiful pass to the back of the end zone. Jaden Davis showing off the moon ball, and then they would extend it right here, going up 42-24. Now this is where things start to take a turn. We head to the fourth quarter. Aggies find a hole in the coverage and fight their way into the end zone, cut this thing to 11. They face a 3rd and 4 after getting the ball back. They got all the time in the world, and he's got to let this thing go deep, and that thing is caught. Touchdown, New Mexico State. 5-point game. Now it's up to the Gamecock offense to salt this one away. Davis just misses his receiver. That one is going to sting because Aggies right down the field. This is the first play of that drive. Breaking tackles. He's going to break another one and finally get dragged down at the 9-yard line. 3 plays later, Jacksonville State's worst dreams came true. No pass rush. Quarterback tucks it. He is going to score. Gamecocks have one last chance to win this ball game, and Davis has him. No, it gets picked off, and New Mexico State pulls off the upset. That is a tough way to start conference play for Jacksonville State. Over in Oxford, San Diego State was looking to pull off the upset. Down 14, not anymore. That touchdown to Chavez brings it to within 7, and he would tie it on the next drive. We're in the fourth quarter now. It is grit and grind time. 5.5 minutes left. Ole Miss on the ensuing drive. They're going to give a little outside zone, and he's got the corner, and he's going to score. 38-31 now, Rebels. What does the San Diego State offense have in store? They've driven all the way down inside the 20-yard line. This is red zone. Give me something. And that ball gets picked off. The ball sails on Nelson, and San Diego State falls just short of pulling off the upset. Winless Bowling Green gets started in MAC play, and they're trying to find that elusive first victory of the season. Already up 7-0. We're going to make it 14. They counter the blitz on 4th and 7 and find Pater to extend the lead. 17-7 now. NIU trying to do something fine and dandy on the offensive side of the football, but that is nothing of the sort. Picked off going back the other direction right before the break. 24-7 is your halftime score, and it remains your score midway through the third quarter, but the Huskies will change that with that pass right there. Now 27-17 after an exchange of field goals. We got a minute left in this ball game. What does NIU have? Well, they have a touchdown. Comes down to this onside kick. This is huge, and it's going to be recovered by Bowling Green. They're going to get the victory. I mean, that's just big all around for P. Rizzi and his Falcon squad. Delaware looking to get to 500 on the season and avenge the loss they took last year at the hands of Louisiana Tech. And new quarterback Matt Kelsey would use his legs to get the Blue Hens on top and continue to extend their lead as they're now up 14-10. This guy is a dual threat quarterback to a T. Delaware now up 21-10, and Kelsey is going to roll out of the pocket, just extending it to let his guys get open on the back end. And it would be more of the same in the second half as they went on to win 42-17. San Jose State taking on rival Stanford. And this one was interesting early on. McCoy on the run, finding his receiver. Next play, they would punch it into the end zone. But Stanford, on the ensuing drive, came right back down the field, and they would have a wide open lane to run through and make this a 10-point game yet again. But this Spartan offense said not so fast. We're going to come right back down the field ourselves, and we're going to find the end zone. A little RPO action like we've seen so many times before. But the defense just was not in the business of getting many stops in today's game. Stanford kind of had their way with them. This pass right here, just a summation of what was an awful day at the office. And you can see with the final score, 52-14, that the Spartan offense wasn't much better. A big rematch of last year's 68 Ventures Bowl pits two of the best teams in the league against each other in Athens, Ohio. App State wanted this one. They circled it on the calendar, and they wanted to get some revenge. And that's why you see them out to a 7-0 lead early. They came ready with a game plan to defeat this heavy blitz defense from the Bobcats. But their offense said, we're going to keep ourselves in this ball game. They scored the very next play. But this App State offense would just have so many answers. Kanye Roberts up the middle to make this a 14-7 ball game. Now 14-10 after an Ohio field goal. They get the ball right back, throw a little bubble screen, and they're going to take their first lead of the game. It's already in the second half. They get another field goal to make it 24-14. So we got a 10-point ball game now. And the Ohio defense decided to step up. Played a little cover two, gets the bait on the throw, and they're not going to be fast enough to catch him. The Bobcat defense steps up and puts 7 on the board themselves. But App State would score to cut it to 10 again and then get the ball back. But this is an untimely fumble recovered by the Ohio defense. That is how you make the play. And then they methodically drove down the field, as methodically as you can, throwing the football, and capped it off with this dagger. They twisted the knife and won 38-21. Louisiana looking to get back in the win column. Rough stretch for them since that week 1 win against Utah State. And this run right here would certainly help get the feelings and vibes up early on. 14-7 lead for the Cajuns right before the break. But this defense, man, we've seen it time and time again. They do not play a very physical brand of football. They don't stop the run very well. We are now into the fourth quarter. It's a 21-17 ball game, and Lunch Winfield is getting about as deep of a drop as you can. And then firing a laser made it a 40-yard throw. I don't know why, but it works, right? However, Texas State answered, which meant that the offense had to come back down the field and try to find the end zone again, and they would. They would kick a field goal as well to make it a 6-point ball game, and then the defense got them to 4th and 13. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. That is probably the most heartbreaking way to give up a touchdown. You do all you can to get them to 4th and 13, and then that happens. You just get mossed. Lunch, please tell me you're going to save us from a heartbreak. Oh, he gets backshotted. Oh, no. Oh, they're going to lose. Oh, my God. I don't even know how Hingle McCringleberry does it anymore. I genuinely don't. That is one of the all-time losses. Tulane against Western Kentucky gets on the board first with that throw right there. This one would stay close for majority of the game. Green Wave now up 10-6 after a couple field goal exchanges. And then they would finally find the end zone again with this head top in the back corner of the end zone. And they would extend the lead even more. West Kentucky did eventually find the end zone, but it was too little too late, dropping this one in New Orleans. As we go to some Mountain West action, Utah State already finds themselves down 14-0 late in the first half. But a guy we haven't seen much of so far this season is finally back. That's Corey Thompson Jr. Had 1,400 yards receiving last year. He's got a little ways to go to catch himself, but that'll surely help. 14-7 now, and the Lobos just found the end zone yet again. This Utah State defense has not fixed any of its problems, it seems like. But you do know what's not a problem? Yeah, Corey Thompson Jr., go back to the guy, let him catch the ball. He's a go route specialist. Just keep hitting him on that. If only the defense knew how to stop a nosebleed, because this is This is atrocious. They give up 42, and the Aggies lose their first conference game. That is not great way to start the season. UMass and Buffalo in some action, and that is going to be a pick trying to test the seam, just not good enough. And oh yeah, there are no angles there. That's why they play offense and not defense. That's a pick six. UMass just doing whatever they want on both sides of the football. We're still in the first quarter, and it's 21-0. Okay, make that 28-0. I did not expect that to happen, but the tight end is going to rumble and bumble and stumble his way into the end zone. It's now 34-0. Guys, it's a massacre. Please look away. Children, women, do not watch this. But Buffalo would find the end zone right here. They would, however, lose 55-10. And listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I think Coach Hugh Janis might be fired at the end of this season. I really do. Coastal Carolina is down, but they're not out. We've seen this team come back time and time again. So they get the touchdown right there, right? They get the stop. And then, wouldn't you know it, the very next drive, they have another chunk play. This one results in a touchdown. They're now up 35-21. If you thought it was over, you are sorely mistaken. That ball is picked off, trying to test the safeties again. What is it with people trying to test the safeties? These guys got hands. So now it's 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They're just going to try to salt the clock away. And Jaquel Middlebrook says, I'll do more than that. I'll put more points on the board, as Coastal is able to get a big conference victory. We got a little user versus user action as Coach Sonnenberger Jr. is traveling to take on Coach Wagner and the Missouri State Bears. And it would be the Bulldogs that got on the board first. A little RPO screen action untouched into the end zone. And they would extend that lead early in the second quarter with this off-tackle run right here. All game long, Missouri State was able to drive the football, but then it would be costly mistakes that would turn the ball over on fourth down or result in interceptions. Kind of both right there, but they just couldn't break through in the first half as they trail 14-0 going into the break. But the defense would get them on the board. That is a strip sack or a pick. Not sure how they officially recorded it. All I know is that it is 6. Extra point is missed, though, which makes things interesting. They face 2nd and inches the next time they touch the ball. They're inside the 5-yard line. They're going to throw a little screen. And you don't need blockers on a screen when it's that short of a distance. They do get the 2-point conversion to tie this thing up. We go late fourth quarter, and Missouri State is going to find the end zone, and they're going to win this goddamn football game. Let's take a look back at the score from week 4. App State loses to Ohio in a game that they looked thoroughly outmatched and outgunned, especially in the second half. That is one that I know Coach Mike Roth really wants back. He's going to have the boys better prepared next time. Coastal Carolina cannot play a lick of defense, but it does not matter if their offense is going to put up 40 points a game. You don't want to rely on that. As we saw last year, it can get you into some rough waters when the offense does start to sputter. But right now, they're 2-2. It's about as good as you could ask for, given where their secondary is at. Just stop making it so gosh dang close. Texas State beats Louisiana, and if you're Coach Hingham Kringleberry, you've had close loss after close loss after close loss. They're essentially Nebraska under Scott Frost, where it was like they keep losing by 1 score. Eventually, they're going to break through, and these games are going to flip, and then they're going to be really good. We'll see if this one takes a little bit of a different turn than it did for Scott Frost in Nebraska, but it's just another heartbreaker, and you have to feel for that program and where they're at right now. As we go to the Mountain West, Utah State continues to not know how to play defense, and the offense is trying to play keep up every single game, and it's just not sustainable. Maybe something can change, as we saw like it did last year in that last 4-game stretch. Maybe it does again this year, hopefully sooner, so they can get to a bowl game. San Diego State with probably the best performance at a loss this week. That was a phenomenal performance in Oxford. The way that they stood toe-to-toe with the Rebels was just beautiful to watch. Costly turnover, though, at the end of the game when they could have gone in and tied it. I don't really care about that so much as I do their ability to compete in the Mountain West this year and play in that Mountain West championship game. San Jose State is not the same team as it was last year. We all knew that. This was a result I was a little bit surprised by. Did not expect it to go that way, especially in the second half. Fresno State gets out to an early 14-0 lead on Missouri State and then chokes it away in the second half, not scoring a single time. That program is still winless, and frankly, Sonnenberger Jr. will be fired at the end of the season if things don't change. This program is way too good and has way too many resources to be losing this many football games. Going to the MAC, UMass just continuing their dominance in that conference. Just one team that they haven't been able to get over the hump. Buffalo felt that the hard way. Like I said, I think Hugh Janis is fired after this season. The offense just never is been there, and I worry that the defense is starting to give in a little bit. Bowling Green with a fantastic first victory, and doing so in conference too, putting themselves in a great position to compete in the conference, at least be a name in the middle of the pack to play spoiler. That is a phenomenal win for them. Ohio, from the perspective of the Bobcats, that win is amazing. App State's 3-0. They're one of the better group of 5 teams in the country, one of the better group of 5 programs, and to beat them the way that you did says a lot. It's a statement win, and you should be a top 25 team after that. Toledo with a massive revenge win over Western Michigan. I know that was a game that they kept going back to last year. If they didn't lose it, they would have been playing in the conference championship game. So they made sure to get all of that out. It was a shaky start, but that second half was all Rockets. As we go to the Conference USA, Delaware with a big win. Kind of the same thing as Toledo. They needed to get those demons, exercise them a little bit from that game last year. They did tenfold, winning 42-17. Western Kentucky just kind of outmanned in that game against Tulane. Just don't have the same horses as the Green Wave. I thought they played well. Not the typical scoring output we're used to seeing, but I thought the defense played well within itself. Holding that offense to 27 points just didn't come in a victory. It is what it is. Get ready for conference play. New Mexico State pulling off a shocking upset. They didn't have a win at this point in the season, and then they beat Jacksonville State, who had done a pretty good job in out-of-conference play, kind of dominating and looking like a team that was ready to go back to the conference championship game. The defense just kind of let them down in the fourth quarter there. I thought the offense, when you score 42 points, you should be able to win the football game. They've had a lot of games like this where the defense just did not hold up their end of the bargain. And then for Missouri State, 2-2. Like, Coach Wagner was very close to being fired at the end of last season. Just the inability to get an FBS victory until I think it was like week 14. Now they're 2-2 on the season. They have 2 FBS victories, and who knows where they could go from here, right? Conference play is wide open. Conference USA, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, is not very good. There are games to be won here, and maybe we can talk about this team going bowling. So I think that was an overall great program win for the Bears. Let's talk about players of the week from week 4. Corey Thompson Jr. is your National Offensive Player of the Week with 10 catches, 287 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He is back and better than ever, and we are so happy to have him. In Conference USA, Dylan Dixon is your Defensive Player of the Week. 3 tackles, 1 INT, 2 PBUs, and a score. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Jeremiah Colbert, 5 catches, 133 yards, and a receiving touchdown in that loss to New Mexico State. Going to the MAC, we'll talk about Colin Gill, who is also the National Defensive Player of the Week. 3 tackles, TFL, 2 picks, 2 PBUs, and a touchdown in the win over Buffalo. And then Jonathan Paylor, he had a couple of return touchdowns as well, but obviously the receiving stat line is pretty solid himself. That'll do it for episode 2 in season number 2. I told you it was going to be jam-packed. Guys, we have a lot of really good games going on. If you like what you're seeing, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to hit subscribe, because these are going to keep coming. You are going to want to be seated for when these programs get really good and we're competing for championships. We're going to have so much great team building, some rivalries starting to form, and they're already budding, and we're seeing that on the field. I promise you the best is yet to come, so you want to make sure that you're around for it. That is all I have for you today. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the flip. See ya.